The shocking truth behind my childhood best friend. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My phone lit up at 2:11 a.m. with a message that cracked my stomach open like a dropped jar. Cover for me, or we're both ruined. It was from Alex, the kid who once traded cafeteria pudding for my spare pencils, the boy whose house key jingled on my lanyard through middle school, the man I still called a brother even when adulthood tried to file us apart. I'm Jamie, 29, a school counselor with a cubicle that smells like dry erase markers and coffee grinds, the kind of job Alex called saintly poverty. I help kids name their storms. Tonight, my storm spelled my name in vibrating pixels. I could hear the radiator ticking, counting out my options. If I replied, I might be pulled into whatever hole Alex had dug beneath his glossy life. If I didn't, I might be complicit anyway, because silence is a witness, too. The last time Alex said, "It's nothing," I lent him $380 for a weekend mistake that took 3 months to come back in dribbles. I tell my students to trust patterns more than promises. So why was my thumb hovering over the keyboard like a moth stunned by kitchen light? What happened? I typed. He replied instantly. Wrong number hit me. Need you to confirm I was with you. The date he attached, April 17th, was the night I'd fallen asleep on my couch grading scholarship essays. My stomach tightened, then rebelled. I pictured Alex's curated apartment, color-coded books, a record player that only spun first pressings, and that stupid neon sign, "Make it a moment." He was always collecting moments like lottery tickets, expecting one to cash out into a life that required no apologies. My life was receipts and schedules. His was captions and applause. "You owe me," he wrote, 3 words that felt like a grip on my collar. The worst part wasn't the threat. It was the muscle memory of saying yes. Our history sat in my throat like a coin, tempting me to swallow and buy another round of trust. The screen waited, bright and patient, while the radiator ticked on, merciless. I thought of a kid who'd told me last week, if someone needs you to lie, they're already leaving. My thumb lowered toward a reply I'd regret when the second text landed. "Open your door, please, Jamie. Someone followed me here." Alex's voice carried through the door before I unlatched it, that old theatrical tremor he used to win school elections and free drinks. He stepped inside smelling like rain and citrus cologne, hair damp, eyes glittering with the kind of panic that photographs well. "I didn't know where else to go," he said, hands spread. "My apartment is small, 2 rooms that argue about being one, and his presence made the walls lean." "What happened?" I asked, feeling the counselor tone slip into place. "A guy from a startup?" "No, an incubator. Got weird about a pitch I ghosted on," he said quickly. "He thinks I stole something." "Stole what?" I asked. "Time," Alex said with a smile that tried to be charming. Then it broke. "Look, I need you to say I was here on the 17th. April 17th. I pulled the calendar printout from the fridge and circled my memory. Scholarship essays, 2 mugs, 1 stain I never explained. "You weren't here," I said. His grin stiffened. "We've covered for each other before." "Not for this," I said. "What is this?" He skated past me to the window, peeled the curtain with 2 fingers, and peered down the stairwell. "He followed me," Alex repeated. "And I think Ray's mad at me, and your aunt." "What's her name?" "The truth lady." "Nora," I said. "Right, Nora. She's texting me poems about boundaries." The words sounded like a disease in his mouth. I poured water, watched his hands shake just enough to be convincing. "I've got early sessions," I said. "Kids waiting." He laughed once. "Saintly poverty," he repeated, softer, like a secret. I felt last month's favor punch me again. The temporary add-on line I'd opened for him when he said his phone was bricked. The bill arrived with roaming charges from Nevada. "Alex, why Vegas?" I asked. He blinked, too slow. "Content," he said. "A conference." The radiator ticked in neat little lies. "Show me your text from April 17th, I said. He swallowed. "My phone died that night." I pointed at the glowing rectangle on my table. "Not that one," he said. "The other one." The word, other, fell between us like a coin rolling to the edge of a drain, ringing once before it disappeared. "You have a second phone, and I need to see it now." He hesitated just long enough for my certainty to lace its boots. "It's not what you think," he said, pulling a slim phone from his messenger bag. The kind with a matte case and no stickers, suspiciously anonymous. Work line, he added, already defensive. I opened the call log. The dates stung. April 17th, 8:43 p.m. A call to a contact saved as A1. 9:12 p.m. Unknown number, 3 minutes. 9:28 p.m. Blocked. The messages were worse. Send the list. We use initials only. Same drop as last time. I felt my counselor voice leave the room without me. What list? I asked. Mailing list, he said too fast. For events. I scrolled to photos. A blurred screenshot of a driver's license top edge. A cropped HR badge with the name bar sliced off. Spreadsheets with first names and last 2 digits of SSNs. My lungs tightened. Alex, what is this? He grabbed the phone back. You shouldn't snoop, he said, as if I'd rifled through his diary. You asked me to lie, I said. I get to ask what for. He paced, touching objects like he needed them to anchor his story. The mug, the curtain, the clock. It's nothing heavy, he said. It's a game, everyone does it. Points for access, not harm. I thought of the kids at school whose parents spent hours untangling fraudulent accounts opened in their names. You're skimming identities, I said. He winced, as if the word itself bit him. Borrowing, he corrected. The difference was the size of a life. Who else is in this? I asked. He named nobody, then named everyone. Contacts, partners, a friend who owed a favor. The radiator kept time like a custodian who has seen everything and keeps sweeping. I took photos of the messages with my phone, each click a small, shaking decision. He watched, something calculating sliding behind his eyes. A car door slammed outside. He flinched. If we talk to Nora. I began, Sheil. He cut me off, voice suddenly hard. Don't bring her in. Ray deserves to know, I said. He smiled like a blade catching light. Ray's already in. If my sister is involved, you just turned this into a war. Saturday night, I let Alex talk me into attending a launch party for a brand that sold candles with names like Victory Lap and First Million. The venue was a rooftop in the garment district, all glass and ego, heaters humming against the wet spring air. Alex moved through the crowd like he was on home ice, waving at photographers, whispering people's jobs before I met them. When he introduced me, he always added a joke that landed like a slap wrapped in tissue paper. This is Jamie, who saves the world one worksheet at a time. Laughter, clinking, a flash. Jamie, who once cried over a B-. More laughter. The jokes had roots. They stuck. At the bar, he touched my elbow. About the 17th, he murmured. Just say I was on your couch. No one checks. I stepped back. Stop asking. He raised his hands, palms theatrically clean. Later, a panel started, and Alex volunteered to share lessons. He told a story about carrying a childhood friend through school while working 2 jobs. The friend who never risked, only judged. The crowd nodded, impressed. I felt my face heat. He looked right at me when the applause came. Humiliation has a weight. It draped my shoulders. Nora texted, "Come home. Breadcrumbs aren't dinner." I tucked the phone away. After the event, we stood at the elevator with a view that pretended the city loved us back. You're fragile tonight, he said. I'm honest tonight, I said. The doors opened. He kissed my cheek like a penalty waived. You'll do the right thing, he whispered. By the time I reached my lobby, a message waited from a number I didn't recognize. A screenshot of Alex's DMs dated April 17th. Him sending a selfie with a slot machine, the caption, paid in full, baby, tagged at a Vegas casino. Timestamp, 9:31 p.m. I stared until the pixels bled. My building's hallway smelled like damp cardboard and someone else's takeout. A neighbor's TV laughed too loudly through the wall. I checked geotag metadata, the kind of basic forensics I teach seniors who are being catfished by strangers with stock photos. The casino location matched. The time matched the second phone's log. The carpet pattern in the selfie matched photos on the casino's public page. I pictured Alex practicing sincerity in the elevator mirror, the way he smooths his expression as if it were a napkin. I thought about all the times I'd picked up his messes, expecting he'd grow out of messes like kids grow out of sneakers. I saved the screenshot in a folder named April_17_evidence, because naming things is one way to keep breathing. My phone buzzed again. A heart emoji from the unknown number. Then, he lies to you first. I typed back, "Who is this?" No answer. I screenshotted the unsatisfying silence, too. Tomorrow I'm printing this and asking Ray why she lied. Ray arrived Sunday with a grocery tote and her diplomacy voice. "I'm not staying long," she said, but she put milk in my fridge and then sat. So her body betrayed her. "Alex says you're spiraling," she added, tucking hair behind her ear. "Alex says," I repeated. "Ray, were you with him on April 17th? She adjusted her bracelets. "He told me you'd cover." I figured. She trailed off, eyes flicking to the papers I'd spread on the table. Phone logs from the second device, copied while Alex showered. The DM screenshot, my calendar printout, the bill with Nevada charges. "Jamie," she said softly, "you collect evidence like it's going to hug you." I swallowed. "It keeps me standing." She picked up the bill. "You opened a line for him?" "Temporary," I said. "He promised." "He always promises," she murmured, something like old affection in the words. "He used to sleep on our floor when Mom worked nights." "History isn't bail," I said. Ray sighed. "He said he needed an alibi because some guy is after him about a misunderstanding. He told me you were being dramatic." I showed her the device photos, the license edge, the badge, the SSN fragments. She went pale. "That's not a misunderstanding," she whispered. Nora called, and I put her on speaker. "Kids," she said, not unkindly. "If we let guilt set the table, we'll be fed poison." Ray rubbed her eyelids. "If I say anything publicly, Alex will scorch me," she said. "He has friends who make noise." "I don't need noise," I said. "I need daylight." Ray looked at me for a long time. "If you go forward, I won't stop you," she said. "But I won't stand next to you either." Something inside me tilted. Choosing daylight is lonely work. Even the room seemed to back away. Nora exhaled on the line. "Bring the phone to my friend at the bank," she said. "Ask for Patel." I lingered after Ray left, touching the corners of the papers like they might cut me less if I pressed first. I scrolled our childhood album. Alex in Halloween makeup. Alex asleep on our couch with a dog-eared comic. Alex at graduation tossing his cap like he was throwing away a map. I typed a message to him and deleted it. The unknown number sent a new text. "He uses first initials and last two digits. Protect your students." My blood ran cold. I thought of the seniors applying to jobs who trusted me with their resumes and ID scans. I checked my school email for any unusual activity, nothing obvious yet. I printed the logs, tucked them into a manila folder that once held a student's transcript appeal, and wrote in thick marker, "Do not lose." I set an alarm for dawn and laid the folder on my shoes so I couldn't leave without feeling its weight. Alex just texted me a location pin and a skull emoji. Alex's pin landed at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the river, a place with tile floors and tiny plants drooping bravely under fluorescent patience. He was already at a corner table, put up like a penitent and sunglasses doing nothing. "You brought Ray into this?" he asked. "She brought herself," I said. "Who is the skull for?" He smiled. "You like symbols, counselor. Interpret it." I set the second phone on the table between us. His jaw tightened. "You're dramatic tonight," he said. "You humiliated me on a roof," I replied. The barista called a name like a bell. "You think I'm dangerous?" he asked. "I think you're sloppy," I said, and slid over a printed copy of the Vegas screenshot. He scanned it, nostrils flaring once. "Photoshop," he said. "You can't Photoshop the time zone," I said. He leaned in. "You still owe me," he whispered. "For what?" "For choosing work over me since we were 16. I thought of rides missed, games attended, the algebra notebook we passed between classes like a treaty. We grew up," I said. "You're still rehearsing your TED Talk." His hand landed on the phone, gentle like a threat. "This is theft," he said. "This is evidence," I said. He dropped his volume to a hiss. "Put it back, Jamie." Behind him, the door chimed, and a man in a navy jacket entered, scanning the room with purpose. Alex's shoulders locked. "Who's that?" I asked. He didn't look. "No one," he said, and the words sounded borrowed. The man approached the counter, ordered, and took a seat with a line of sight to us. "We're done," Alex said, standing too fast. The chair legs scraped like a warning. As he turned, the second phone buzzed with a notification preview. A1. Same drop. Noon. River parking. Bring IDs. Alex froze. We both read it twice. He whispered, "Don't answer that." I said, "We're taking this to Patel." He laughed then, but the laugh had edges, like he was chewing on glass. You think a bank guy cares about your little spreadsheet drama? He asked. Patel will care about federal crimes, I said. The man in the navy jacket stood, dumped his untouched coffee, and left without looking back. Alex exhaled as if a string had been cut inside him. A kid at a nearby table drew a dragon in the condensation on their cup. The tail smeared when their mom pulled them away. You used my students' names? I asked quietly. He flinched, just once. Only initials, he said, as if mercy lived in syllables. I pocketed the second phone. Alex's eyes went flat, like a screen gone to sleep. Alex reached for the phone so fast the table nearly flipped. At the bank, security glass made everything look cooler, like the room preferred numbers over people. Patel met us in a conference nook with a plant that had outgrown its confidence. He was compact, gray at the temples, tie knotted with competence. Nora sat beside me, her tote like a small fortress at her feet. I don't usually handle this flavor, Patel said, flipping open a pad. But Nora says you have documentation. I slid the manila folder across, then the second phone. He pulled on thin gloves. The gesture steadied me. Start with dates, he said. I told him April 17th, the timestamps, the A1 thread, the photo metadata, the Vegas charges. He scribbled. Initials and last two SSN digits, he repeated. That's classic low-level credentialing. Enough to open utilities, small accounts, test the waters. He asked how I obtained the device. I said, it was left in my custody. Nora coughed, which was her way of saying careful. Patel nodded anyway. We can preserve this and produce a readout, he said. I'm also concerned about your workplace data. Any chance student records were accessed? I felt heat climb my neck. I don't think so, I said. But I'm checking logs. He tapped his pen. We'll flag patterns and set alerts, he said. Do you know who A1 is? I shook my head. Patel held up the phone. This thread mentions drop at river parking 3 times. That's 2 blocks from here. Nora's eyebrows lifted. Timing, she asked. Noon, I said. We all looked at the wall clock, 11:24. Patel's jaw flexed. I can't authorize a sting, he said. But you can choose to observe a public space and keep your distance. I choose daylight, I said, hearing my own voice and believing it for once. Patel bagged the phone. If you see something like an exchange, take photos from afar. Do not intervene. Outside the conference nook, someone argued softly with a teller, the kind of everyday fray that makes crimes feel less cinematic and more possible. Patel photocopied my ID, logged the chain of custody, and asked me to read a statement aloud while he recorded the time. Saying the words into a tiny microphone felt like turning air into stone. I described Alex's message, the rooftop, the coffee shop, the notification from A1. Nora corrected my timeline once. Gently, Patel thanked her without looking up. He printed a receipt for the evidence bag and told me to take a picture of it too. By the time we stood, my legs hummed with nervous electricity, like I'd lifted something heavier than paper. We left the bank with a plan that felt thinner than courage. River parking was a layered concrete spiral that always smelled like rain, even on dry days. Noon brought a motor of movement. Delivery vans stuttering, a jogger tying a shoe, a woman shoving quarters into a meter like she could bribe time. Nora drove. I scanned the levels. We parked with a diagonal view of the pay station. You don't have to be here, I told her. I've missed enough doors by being polite, she said. At 12:06, a compact car rolled in. The driver wore a cap pulled low. A passenger climbed out, hoodie up despite the warm day. They stood by the stairwell, thumbs busy. My phone buzzed in Patel's evidence bag, mute but somehow loud in my head. 12:11, a tall figure in a navy jacket walked up, same build as the coffee shop man. He checked his watch, looked around with the laziness of someone who trusts chaos to serve him. The hoodie handed him a manila envelope. He handed back a thin stack of gift cards and a slip. I took photos through the windshield, angling to avoid glare. The gift cards were the kind you buy in racks near grocery checkout lines. Unremarkable money, laundered by convenience. Mechanism, I whispered. Load stolen identities onto cards. Cash out slowly, stay average. The navy jacket checked his phone. A message preview flashed across the passenger's screen. A1, next batch tonight. My mouth went dry. That's our guy, Nora said. The envelope changed hands again. I snapped a picture of the license plate as the compact car pulled away. A gull coasted in lazy loops above the exit ramp, indifferent to economies. I took a slow photo of the cracked paint on the pay station, just to give Patel texture for location. A siren bleated blocks away and receded. The hoodie tugged their sleeve down to cover a wrist tattoo. The navy jacket adjusted his cap as if he were about to bless the cars. None of it shouted danger, but all of it whispered systems. I wrote down the timestamps on a receipt from my glove box so I wouldn't trust my frightened brain later. My mouth tasted like pennies. Nora drummed her fingers once on the steering wheel and then made her hand go still, the way she always does when she wants me to borrow her calm. He smiled like someone who knew my name before I spoke it. We brought the photos to Patel's office, breathless. He lined them like a storyboard. Envelope, cards, plate. You did not get out of the vehicle, he said, voice neutral. Good. He ran the plate through a public database. Registered to a limited liability company that dissolves and reincorporates every few months, he said. Mailing address is a co-working space. He held up the slip from my photo and squinted. That's a prepaid reload receipt, he said. This looks like a small dollar laundering pipeline. He turned to me. You mentioned students. Any overlap with names on those spreadsheets? I opened my school laptop and pulled up a volunteer list. 2 first names matched, initial and 2-digit style. My stomach flipped. I think he's testing young adults because they don't monitor credit yet, I said. Patel nodded tightly. We should preserve what we have and talk to the HR compliance officer at your school. I'd also like a quiet check with a detective I trust. He paused. There's a decision here. Confront Alex privately to cut off the pipeline, or protect others by going public. Private might protect relationship. Public protects pattern victims. I stared at the photos. If I confront privately, he will spin me. If I go public, he will scorch me. Nora said, you can stand a little scorch. You cannot stand to be used. Patel slid a form across the table. Authorize me to image the device, he said, and to timestamp your photos. I signed. My hand shook only a little. If this escalates, we'll invite Ray to witness, Nora said. She deserves to hear truth with her own ears. I asked Patel if going public meant police immediately. He said sometimes the fastest accountability is administrative. HR moves, financial flags, community moderators banning access. Police can be slow, he said. And this looks like nickel and dime harm that adds up to dollar cruelty. He pointed to the plate photo. This is a breadcrumb, not bread. Don't expect a confession because you bring a menu. Nora snorted. He loves his metaphors, she said. Patel allowed a ghost smile. I love you, Safemore. He handed me a printed checklist titled Incident Reporting Steps and told me to breathe while reading it. I did, each step a rung back to myself. The message read, pick a side now, or I pick it for you. Ray texted, dinner at Alex's? He wants to clear the air. The message tasted like a trap, but traps can be useful when you know where the teeth are. Nora frowned when I showed her. Public place, she said. Light, witnesses, exit. We settled on a busy Italian spot where the napkins are thick and the servers call you love. Alex arrived late, radiant with apology. Families shouldn't fight in front of strangers, he announced, then hugged us both so hard my ribs clicked. During appetizers, he leaned toward Ray. I would never put you in danger, he said, eyes shining. You're the only person who gets me. Ray softened. I watched the choreography. Compliment, confession, concession. He turned to me. Jamie, I messed up. But look me in the eye and tell me you don't owe me a little grace. I held his gaze. I owe people I'm responsible for. Are you one of them? His smile thinned. He set down his fork with care that felt like contempt. Stop acting like a parole officer, he said. Start acting like someone who remembers gratitude. I reached into my bag and placed a printed copy of the parking lot photos on the table, face down. Alex went still. The server arrived with a clatter. Everything okay, loves? Nora said yes without looking away from Alex. He flipped the top photo, and the skin around his eyes tightened a quarter inch. You stalking me now? He asked lightly. I'm protecting my students, I said. He took a breath that looked practiced. Ray, you see how Jamie frames the story, he said. He keeps himself saintly and me monstrous. Ray said quietly, Alex, did you use their names? He didn't answer. He poured water like he was refueling an argument. This is a misunderstanding of scale, he said. No one loses anything that matters. The waiter shaved Parmesan over nothing. A gentle snowstorm meant to sell peace. I watched Ray trace circles in condensation with one fingertip, a motion from childhood when we waited on back steps for Mom's graveyard shift to end. Alex told a warm story about the first time we biked downtown alone, how I patched his tire with duct tape and faith. He knew how to salt memories just enough to make thirst look like love. I drank water I did not want. Somewhere between my restraint and his charm, the room filled with ghosts of second chances I could no longer afford. The air shifted when Alex finally dropped the smile and showed his teeth. We set the meeting for Tuesday afternoon at the community center. Patel agreed to sit in. The HR compliance officer from my school said she would observe. Ray promised to come if I promised to keep it civil. I sent Alex a neutral calendar invite with a bland subject line, Tuesday check-in. He replied with a thumbs up and a knife emoji. I printed everything twice, labeled copies, and rehearsed saying only what I could prove. Nora made tea and told me to practice breathing between sentences so I wouldn't start sprinting and trip on my own certainty. The night before, the unknown number sent, "You don't know a one like I do." I muted it and set my phone face down. Tuesday, the center's fluorescent lights hummed like distant insects. Patel laid out the photos, receipts, and a simple timeline. April 17th message, second phone logs, Vegas selfie, parking lot exchange. He connected lines with a calm pen. The HR officer, Alvarez, wore a blue blazer and an expression that had comforted 1,000 worried parents. Ray sat near the door, one foot bouncing a small, panicked rhythm. Alex walked in late, sunlit and smirking, and took the chair opposite me like a throne. "Let's clear my good name," he said. "Start with your evidence," Patel replied. I slid the bagged phone across. Alex's face changed at the sight of the evidence tag with my signature. "You stole my property," he said. "You left it in my care," I answered. Patel clicked a small recorder on. "We're here to clarify, not to punish," he said evenly. "But we will protect community members if necessary." Alex rolled his eyes. "Community," he said, as if tasting dust. Chairs scraped in the room next door. A Zumba class hooped at a chorus drop. Life happening by accident while we engineered consequence. Alvarez tested the projector's focus and handed Ray a printed resource sheet for identity protection. A gesture so practical, it almost broke me. I wrote 3 words on my notepad: facts, breath, forward, and boxed them in. If Alex tried to detour us with nostalgia, I would point to dates. If he taunted, I would repeat policy. Discipline is love when it keeps people safe. I realized he didn't come to explain. He came to perform control. We began. Patel asked simple, boring questions, the kind that pin lies by denying them a stage. "What is A1? "A label for a friend," Alex said. "A friend who does what?" "Makes things happen." "What things?" "Connections." Patel slid over a printed thread. "Explain same drop, bring IDs," he said. "I pick up tickets," Alex said. "What kind of tickets require IDs?" "High-value events." Alvarez leaned forward. "Were any names on these spreadsheets sourced from our students?" she asked, voice like a gentle gate. Alex spread his hands. "I don't read spreadsheets. I have people for that." Ray whispered, "Alex," but he didn't look at her. Patel turned on a small projector and displayed the Vegas selfie, the metadata, the timestamps. "You were not with Jamie on April 17th, he said. "You were at the Fremont Casino at 9:31 p.m. local time." Alex's jaw clenched. "Time zones are confusing," he said. Nora inhaled a laugh and made it into a cough. Patel pulled up the parking lot photos next, then the reload receipt, then the plate matched to the Shell LLC. "This is a laundering pathway," he said. "Low dollar amounts, layered cards, synthetic identities." Alex stood too quickly. "You can't prove intent," he snapped. "You're already proving pattern," Alvarez said. "And pattern restricts access." Alex pointed at me. "This is revenge because I embarrassed you," he said. My hands were steady in my lap. "I am bored of embarrassment," I said. "I'm interested in safety." Patel asked one more question. "Did you ever request or use the last 2 digits of any social security numbers?" Alex's mouth opened, shut, opened. He landed on a weapon. "Jamie gave me student files to help me practice grant writing," he said evenly. The room felt smaller as the projector's fan clicked on and off, like a nervous metronome. Alex's eyes tracked every face like tally marks. When Patel outlined potential administrative actions, access suspensions, report filings, credit monitoring notices, Alex laughed without humor. "You're all pretending to be cops," he said. "We're pretending to be neighbors," Nora replied. The word neighbor landed with the weight of a promise I wanted to believe again. Ray went white, and Nora's chair scraped because I was already standing with my hands shaking. Alvarez spoke first. "Access suspended pending review," she said, and typed a note to herself. Patel collected the evidence and promised chain of custody continuity. Alex laughed again, too loudly. "You think this hurts me?" he said. "It inconveniences other people." "Sometimes inconvenience is the first mercy," Nora said. Ray stood slowly, face blanked into the expression she uses when the dentist aims a drill. "Alex, did you tell them Jamie gave you files?" she asked. He smirked. "Did I lie?" "Yes," I said, syllables steady. "I never did." He looked at me, and the performance cracked, just a hairline fracture, enough to see the raw metal beneath. "You were supposed to choose me," he said. "I chose us when we were kids," I answered. "And I keep choosing students now." Patel closed his folder. "Mr. Moreno," he said, cool and formal, "you should consider retaining counsel." Alex rolled his shoulders like a boxer before the bell. "I'm not scared of paperwork," he said. "You should be scared of loneliness," Nora murmured. The unknown number buzzed again on my phone on airplane mode. "How?" I didn't know. And the preview read, "Check your door." After the meeting, I walked home with Ray. On my doormat sat a padded envelope without a return address. Inside, a USB drive and a single printed line. "He's not the only one." The drive held a spreadsheet longer than patience. First names, email fragments, the same last two-digit pattern. Some names I recognized from the rooftop party RSVPs. Some belonged to parents I knew. Some were mine. I emailed Patel and Alvarez from my kitchen table while the radiator ticked like a news ticker I couldn't turn off. The email subject that arrived while I watched the spreadsheet load said, "Community Alert Draft." Alvarez asked permission to anonymize my role and described the pattern so families could freeze reports without panic. I wrote back yes and suggested a line about checking junior credit reports before graduation season. Patel replied all with a quick primer on synthetic identities, translated into normal people terms. How partial data becomes a scaffolding for fake people who can open real doors. I felt both useful and nauseated. Ray texted, "Proud of you even when it hurts." I hovered over Alex's contact, thought of typing a boundary, and closed the app. The USB held a folder named Scenes, with subfolders dated months back, drops, lists, screen recordings of message threads where accounts were bought and sold in euphemisms. One video caught Alex laughing as he explained the 2x2 rule, 2 initials, 2 digits, low-res truth he called it, so banks squint and let you slide. The sound of his laugh inside my kitchen made the air feel wrong. I forwarded the file to Patel, attached my short statement, and saved everything twice. My inbox pinged with a subject line that made my breath misfire. Subject: Notice of temporary leave. The principal wrote that while the investigation ran, I should take a week off with pay. "We trust you, but we must be fair," she added, which sounded like sympathy wearing a badge. I put the letter on the fridge next to a crayon drawing from a student who'd once labeled me the listening person. The weight of not working pressed strange angles against my ribs. Nora came by with soup and a list. "Therapist recommendations," she said. I picked one and booked. The therapist's office smelled like lemon oil and patient hope. "Tell me what loyalty means in your mouth," she said. I told her it used to mean enduring until the better parts came back. And now it means boundaries that don't apologize. She nodded. At home, I wrote conditions in a notebook titled Help. If restitution in writing, no unsupervised contact, proof before pity, no secrets on my devices, no favors that require lies. I set up credit monitoring for students whose initial and two-digit combos matched, emailed parents careful language about vigilance without panic, and created a simple guide for freezing reports. Ray texted me short things, "With you, breathe," a photo of our childhood street, which landed like small stitched prayers. Alex, for once, said nothing. The silence felt like weather after a storm. Not peace, exactly, but the first sky in days. On leave, days stretched like taffy. I did practical things and then sat very still. I organized a folder called Proof and one called Care. Care held the therapist homework, the breathing app, the list of people I could call before I texted Alex back. I moved the couch so the radiator's chatter hit me less directly. Nora and I walked the block where Alex and I used to race to the corner and back. She let me be quiet. In therapy, we practiced saying no in a room that applauded boundaries like they were art. I mailed certified letters to the 3 credit bureaus on behalf of former students whose names I recognized, using a template Patel approved. Ray came over with takeout, and we watched videos of dogs learning stairs. "This is what new steps look like," she said. And I let myself laugh because the alternative was another apology to a past version of me that kept taking calls at midnight. At 3:07 a.m., footsteps paused outside my door and then moved on. A week later, the center hosted a community night, resume help, credit checks, gentle talk. I stood near a folding table covered in flyers and cookies. People came with questions, they left with lists. Alvarez spoke about freezing credit. Patel explained fraud alerts. Nora handed out pens that said "ask for receipts" in cheerful font. Ray sat on the end of a row, arms loose, face unarmored. Alex didn't show. Word was he'd left the city for work. The shell company's registration had quietly dissolved. The unknown number sent one last text. "He'll call when he's desperate." I blocked it. When the Q&A finished, a woman I recognized from the parking garage came up with a careful smile. "Thank you for naming what everyone whispers," she said. On my way home, the air smelled like bakery sugar and rain beginning again. I walked past the school and watched a custodian mop a hallway, steady, ordinary, holy. At my apartment, I opened the notebook and read the first page aloud. Help, if. Boundaries are not the opposite of love. They're the frame that makes love visible. For anyone listening, if the story in your life asks you to trade your safety for silence, choose daylight. Keep your documents. Write the dates. Screenshot the threats. Tell a person who loves you enough to be unpopular on your behalf. Afterward, we stacked chairs with strangers who felt less strange now. A teenager asked if it was snitching to report a friend. Nora said it was gardening, pulling weeds so the tomatoes get sun. Patel taught a small group how to read transaction histories for anomalies without going conspiracy blind. Alvarez reminded everyone that shame is the favorite tool of petty crimes, and we do not borrow tools from thieves. I stood by the copier stapling guides until the staple supply sighed empty. Ray passed me a refill and smiled like a door I didn't know I needed open. Outside, a bus hissed at the stop, and the driver waved me across with a patience I wanted to memorize. At home, I made tea and answered 3 emails from parents who had decided to place freezes that night. No one used the word hero. The air felt honest. I texted Nora. Boundary held today. She sent back a picture of a sky trying out pink. I turned off the light and let the room be small, safe, and mine again.